Hello S2 and welcome to your first lesson of crime for S2 Modern Studies. Now in your jotters what we like you to do is to put a new heading in your jotter which is crime and punishment. Now to start with, what I like you to try and do is to try and summarise the difference between a rule and a law. So what is the difference between a rule and a law? So you've got to pause the video at this point and try and summarise the difference. Now, rules and laws. The main difference between rules and laws is the consequences associated with breaking them. While each is developed to invoke a sense of order, fair play and safety, the weight of a law is much heavier than the weight of a rule. So laws are effectively like the legal versions of rules. Now, what we're going to look at today is the following three aims. Firstly, we're going to look to identify the role of the police in our society in Scotland today. We're going to look to describe how the investigation of a crime takes place and to explain police rights and responsibility to maintain a suspect's rights. So what rights do suspects have after they commit a crime or when they've been accused of committing a crime? Now to start with, what I'd like you to do in the middle of your jotter is to write down what is the role of the police. And around those words, I'd like you to try and write down as many things as you can about what the role of the police might be. So you want to pause the video at this point again and try and write down as many things that you can think of about the role of the police. So what do they actually do? Now some of the points that you could have had: protect the public and their property, to keep public order, to arrest suspects and bring them to court, to prevent crime, to deal with emergencies, to investigate incidents, and to manage traffic and make sure people are safe on the roads. That's just some of the things that the police do. So our first aim today was to identify the role of the police. So you should have some points in your jotter now about the role of the police and what they actually do. Now what we're going to look at next is to describe how the investigation of a crime takes place. Now, how do the police actually investigate a crime? Now, what I'd like you to try and do here is to sort the statements about how the police investigate crime into the correct order. Now, you'll have the following points here, so you need to put them in chronological order, so from the start and to the end in terms of how the police actually investigate a crime. So you have the following points here. So someone breaks the law, sentence, sheriff court, remand, high court, charges and getting ready for court. So try and put these words in the correct order of how the police actually investigate a crime. So to start off with, I can help you to start off with, number one is going to be that someone breaks the law. So what then happens from there? So again, if you want to pause the video at this point and try and put these in the correct order, then we're going to go over them. So the chronological order that you should have had here of how the police investigate a crime. Someone breaks the law to start with. So for example, they might break into someone's home and commit a robbery. So someone has broken the law. What then happens next? The police look to charge a suspect, so arrest them and charge them. The police will then keep the suspect on remand, so they'll remand them in custody. So that means to keep them in the police station. We're going to remand you. We're not going to let you go just now. We need to investigate the crime and what's taking place. If a suspect's then charged, they then get ready for court. They will then be taken to the sheriff court. Now if it's a more serious crime, then they'll maybe go to the high court. And then the last point is sentence. So that is what happens to the suspect. So if they're sentenced to time in prison. So that is the chronological order in terms of how police investigate a crime. So we should now know the following two. So to identify the role of the police and to describe how the investigation of a crime takes place. And what we're going to look at lastly today is to explain police rights and responsibilities to maintain a suspect's rights. So we're going to have two scenarios here, scenario 1 and scenario 2. So we'll look over these and discuss the difference between the two scenarios. So scenario 1. John is at home when there is a knock at the door. He answers to find the police waiting for him. Are you John Smith? Yes, John replies. Can you come with us, sir? Says the officer. John asks the police officers what this is all about, but the officer just puts John in handcuffs and into the back of the police car. So that is scenario 1. Scenario 2. John is at home when there is a knock at the door. He answers to find the police waiting for him. Are you John Smith? Yes, John replies. John Smith, I am arresting you on suspicion of burglary. You do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention when questioned something which you later on in court. Anything you do say may be given evidence, said the officer. John is taken to the police station where he is led to an interview room. Now, the difference between scenario 1 and scenario 2 here, hopefully you've seen that the police officer in scenario 1 just asked John to come with him. John asks why, and the police officer just puts John in handcuffs into the back of the police car. Scenario 2, John Smith is told why he is actually being arrested. So scenario 2 is the correct way that suspect should be arrested. The suspect has the right to know why they are being arrested. So scenario number 2 here is the correct scenario in terms of how the police should carry out the investigation. So let's see how it progresses. So again, we have scenario 1 and scenario 2 here. Scenario 1 with John. When they arrive at the police station, John is taken into an interview room where he is told to come clean. John is confused and asks what he's supposed to have done. The police refuse to comment but tell him to call his lawyer. John is worried as he cannot afford to pay for legal advice. He informs the police of this, who tell him that it is not their problem. John is then led down to a cell and left there for a number of hours without any explanation of what is going on. Now scenario number 2. In the interview room, the police explain to John the reasons for his arrest and inform him of his right to a lawyer. John is worried as he cannot afford legal advice, but the police reassure him that a lawyer can be appointed to him for free. On hearing this, John then requests a lawyer, who then accompanies him in the interview with the police. The police ask John a series of questions and present to him evidence to suggest that he was involved in a recent burglary. On finishing the interview, the police are satisfied they have enough evidence and charge John with burglary. John is then released on bail until his trial. Now again, you see the difference between scenario 1 and scenario 2 here. Scenario 1, John is just told to come clean, he's told to call his lawyer. The police say it's not a problem if you can't afford a lawyer. He's not really told very much. Scenario 2, the police clearly explain to John why he's been arrested. They advise him he does have the right to have a lawyer for free that can be appointed to him, and that they ask him a series of questions and present evidence to John. So again, scenario number 2 is the way that things should be done. You see at the end of scenario 2, John is then charged and he's released on bail. So that means he's allowed to leave the police station. He's on bail, so he's out back in the community again, but that is until he goes on trial. So he will be going on trial. So he's bailed just now. And the last part of this investigation, scenario 1 and scenario 2 again. Scenario 1, later that day, the police return to John's cell and tell him if he wasn't prepared to explain himself to them, maybe he would change his mind in court. John is then led out of the police station, taken to the nearest magistrate's court, where he is brought before a judge. The judge asks what the charges against John are. The police then pass the judge a sheet of paper, which the judge reads silently and immediately says, "John Smith, I find you guilty." Now scenario 2, a few weeks later, John attends his trial and pleads not guilty. The judge and jury are then given a fair account of all evidence in the case, including John's own account of what happened. On hearing all the evidence, the jury then find John guilty and the judge gives him the appropriate sentence. So again, the difference between the two scenarios you see here, scenario 2, John is given the chance to give a fair account. The jury and the judge listen to evidence of what has went on in this crime, and John's allowed to give his own account of what's taken place. Scenario 1 again is not what is supposed to happen in a fair trial. So scenario 2 is the correct procedure, and that lets you see the rights that suspects have. They are given the right to a fair trial. Now, after thinking about the scenarios there, what I'd like to try and do is to fill in the gaps using the words below. So John has the right to, and you've got 4 words that you need to try and fill in. So something advice, to know the something against him, to a fair something, to something the decision the court has made. So you've got 4 words at the bottom there to use to try and fill in these blank lines. Once you have done this, if you pause the video at this point to complete this, and then we'll go over it again. So what you should have, John has the right to legal advice, so he is allowed a free lawyer to give him legal advice. He's also got the right to know the charges that are being brought against him. John also has the right to a fair trial in court, and John also has the right to appeal the decisions the court has made, and that goes for any suspect across Scotland. They have those rights. So our third aim today, to explain police rights and responsibilities to maintain a suspect's rights, so you know there what police have to do to make sure that the suspect has their rights seen to. So that has us achieved those three aims, hopefully. Now, some extension questions for you to try in your jotter. So it says here, write the answers to the following questions in your jotters, writing in full sentences. So you've got 7 questions here to try and answer. So what sort of crimes do people commit? What happens when someone is charged with a crime? What does bail mean? What happens when a witness is called to court but doesn't turn up? Does the sheriff have a limit on what he can send his people? How old do you have to be to appear in a jury? And what is the maximum punishment that can be given? Now, we've not went over some of these questions in this lesson, so for some of these questions you may need to do some research yourself. Answer these questions in your jotter in full sentences, and once you've done this, if you want to take a picture of your jotter and upload your answers via the assignment tab on Microsoft Teams, or if you decide to type it up on a Word document, you can upload this via the assignment tab on Microsoft Teams. Thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions, please just get in touch with your class teacher. To finish this lesson, we do have some questions that you could look at as well for our plenary on the Nando's scale of plainish, medium, hot and extra hot. So you can have a go at answering some of these questions if you want to as well. Thank you.